Hey everyone, this time we're going to be going back to the Dragon Quest series. I played the first one, second, third, and fourth, and I liked some of them, didn't really like one of them to be honest, but now we're going to jump to Dragon Quest VII. I don't have a good way of recording Dragon Quest V and VI, so we're going to skip those for right now and just go right into the 7th one. I'm not going to say that I really like this game. I have some pretty big problems with it. So we're going to talk about a few different things here, go over the monsters, the artwork, the bosses, and then talk a little bit about the story at the end. I really wanted to like this game. It's got a lot of the things in it that I would normally really enjoy in an RPG. But there's just something about it that just really made me hate the thing. And to put this in just the simplest way, I think it's a very good game, or I think it's a good game that could have been a very good game, but it just feels like it drags on way longer than it really should, and I don't really like how disjointed the overall story is. I'll get more into that later, but yeah, I was really struggling with this one. So from what I gather, this kind of ties back into the second Dragon Quest game, where this is like an offshoot or like an alternate timeline for that game. That's fine, I don't really mind that so much, but there's some other stuff that I just absolutely hated. But first, let's kind of transition into the artwork and the monsters really quick, and that's some things that I really liked about the game. So the artwork is again provided by Akira Toriyama, which it is throughout the entire series. I might keep mentioning it just because I really like the artwork in this series. I love that they've kept it consistent all this time. I love that they've blended in the older monsters with the newer ones to give you sort of that familiarity between the series. It's just something that's really great. I normally like most of the characters in the games. This one I didn't necessarily like all of them. The main characters I thought were fine, but a lot of the others I hated so many of them in this game, just because it goes more into the story, which I'll get into later. And I know I keep mentioning that, and I'm kind of sorry about that, but it's just something that I don't really... I'm just going to talk about later on. Before we get into the monsters, just let me talk about something else in the game real quick. So the monsters in this game are kind of weird, at least the way they work with the different people in this world. It seems like the monsters are just this unstoppable force, and the people seem to just be unwilling or unable to do anything about it. There are soldiers in this game, and in some of the lands, they actually do a good job of fighting off, or at least trying to hold off the monsters. And in others, it's just like they give up as soon as the monsters show up. So the design of the monsters is it's really good. They give you a lot of the same ones that you've experienced before, so you have that era where, you've done this, you know these different monsters, you kind of know what you're going to be in for when you fight them. And then they mix in a whole bunch of newer ones that you might not have seen before, but they look like they belong in a world of Dragon Quest. One thing I want to point out is, even when they try to look scary, whether it's just like the regular monsters or if it's the bosses, I never got the impression that they really were scary. Maybe it's something with Akira Toriyama's artwork where it's like, that thing is too ridiculous for me to be afraid of it. I mean, you got a cat that's a mage, you got a winged monkey, you've got a dude that's very clearly wearing like a jaguar or a tiger suit. It's just nothing that looks like it would actually be frightening. It just looks more bizarre to me than anything else. And then we kind of circle back to the one thing that I never really thought I would have to actually explain or really talk about. And that was the monster's relationship with all the people in the game. And just how incredibly weird it was. It just kind of felt like they either really hated the monsters or they were kind of okay with them, where it just felt like they knew the monsters were bad, but they never really wanted to do anything about it. Like, the monsters will come in, they'll, like, curse somebody, and then they'll say, well, I only had enough power to curse them, I don't have enough power to do anything else. And that kind of goes into some other stuff where it's just, like, I don't know, there's some weird things in this game that just make me wonder what the hell is going on in this place, where, like, magic sometimes is super powerful, and sometimes it's just almost not even worth it. But overall, like, to get back to monsters and the artwork, it's all really, really good. Because probably this is a 32-bit system, you get more out of, like, more detail with the monsters and that sort of thing. So that was the monsters and a little bit on magic and whatnot. So before we transition into the story, which I've got some issues with, we'll talk a little bit about the cutscenes and everything. Normally the cutscenes in this are done with in-game graphics, which look pretty good because the pixel art and everything looks really good in this game. You get that amount of detail that I talked about earlier, which you didn't get from the NES games. I'm not really too sure on the Super Nintendo ones because I haven't checked that out yet. But then there are times when they don't do the in-game graphics, when I think they still could have done them. And they go into, like, this CG sort of video and whatnot, and it looks off to me. I don't necessarily like it when they do that. It's like the opening for the game and everything that we showed at the intro, and I don't personally like that. I wish they had just stuck with the in-game graphics, especially since they don't do those cutscenes enough. It feels like this was a game that was being made really for, like, the Super Nintendo or something like that, or maybe for the N64, and they just decided, you know what, screw it, we're going to make these cutscenes and throw them in just because we can now. Anyway, now that I've gotten that off of my chest, let's talk about the story, and I can get a whole lot of other things off of my chest. Okay, so let me just go ahead and say this really quick. The story of Dragon Quest VII feels incredibly disjointed to me. It never felt like there was one cohesive narrative that you were following. It feels like a bunch of side quests that in some way connect eventually to the end of the game, where you have to go and fight the Demon Lord. Because, of course, you have to fight the Demon Lord. That makes sense. I'm perfectly fine with that. It just felt weird. The things that I really like about this is I like the mechanic where you are sort of jumping to and from time, you're restoring islands to this world, you're solving problems and everything. I was doing everything that I thought would be a lot of fun in this game. But I just wasn't having any fun because I felt like, okay, if I just never did any of this, would the world have been a better place? It would have been a much smaller place, but would it have been a better place? And I honestly think that it would have been a better place if I had just not gone off on my weird little quest with my buddy, who happened to be a prince, and started restoring all of these different parts of the world. Or if I had only restored a few of them and then just stopped, I think the world would have been in a better place. It was just very, very weird. I liked certain stories in here. I liked the 2 Grey Rain stories. I liked the story of the priest who, is going to get killed by the villagers because he transformed into a monster. I liked that. And I liked how the town tried to, cover it up to make themselves look better at the end. I thought that was great. There's a lot of things in this that I really enjoy. But just the overall story, I was like, it's so disjointed and just so annoying the way they have you do this. I was just struggling for a reason to keep going and wanting to like actually finish and do all the stuff I had to. So I really, really tried to like this game. I put in over 100 hours of this, and I just... there wasn't enough to make me want to keep going. There just weren't enough things to make me care enough about the people in this world. I don't know what it was, but it's something about this game just made me really, really not like it. It wasn't all the stories I liked. I probably liked most of the stories in this, if I really think back. It wasn't the class system overall. I didn't like where they dropped the class system in. I didn't like some of the parts of the class system. But there were enough in it that I was like, okay, this reminds me of other stuff that I enjoyed doing. And I think that might have been the problem with this game. There were enough things in here that made me... that sort of reminded me of better games that I wanted to play instead of playing this one. So at the end, it's not a bad game. It's a good game that I think could have been great, but it just wasn't for me. Like, it's clear this is not the game that I want to play. It's just not something that I enjoyed very much. If it's your favorite one of the Dragon Quest series, that is awesome, and I can see why you would probably like it. For me, I just couldn't do it. I'm sorry. I just could not like this game. So that's gonna wrap it up, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you didn't, I totally understand. I understand that this is a very... like, a lot of people love this game, but I am not one of them. So if you want, please leave your comments below, and just have a great day, everyone.